Hey everybody, and welcome to today's video. We're going to be looking at Total War Medieval 3. The developers just did a sit down where they discussed loads of different topics, and apparently this is going to be a continual thing where you, the Total War fan, can go and comment on their forums and essentially discuss your ideas. What did you like from Empire? What did you like from Shogun 2, Napoleon, the Warhammer games, and what would you like to see Medieval 3 take from those games? Because look, Medieval 3 is years away. I'm going to have images up on the screen throughout this video, but in the honest truth of it, a lot of this is just conceptual, and so the images aren't going to show what the game's going to look like at all. All of this, again, just art, not real. Do not take it, or take it with a big grain of salt, essentially, is what I'm saying. I'm just buzzing to see CA or Total War like interact with the community the way we see Paradox do. It's something we've needed for a long time. And I think it's due to YouTubers like Legend of Total War and stuff who have made this push to see CA actually get involved and listen to their community for once. So I think this is an amazing thing that they're doing, and I'm really excited. And again, if you have any feedback, go comment on the forums. I'm also buzzing to see that they switched out these horrific chairs from the Warhammer 40k interview for some nice comfy couches, and the developers looked much more bloody happy in this interview and much more relaxed than that awkward ass interview that I watched the other day from Warhammer 40k. So look, I'm going to dive straight in because the whole point is that the whole live stream was an hour and a half long. This is to shorten it down and keep it simplified. So let's start off with the map. So we know the map is going to start in 1140. That's kind of what they're basing it off. Again, not accurately represented in the images we have. They said it's going to be the same as the Attila map. So going to get a little bit of the Middle East, a little bit of North Africa, but we're not going to get like India or West Africa or any of those kind of regions. And I'm totally fine with that. It's just a scale up version of Attila. Like I think they said there was 30 regions in Spain. I think that's what they said. They did say 30 a few times. Now, I didn't know if that was what they were referring to. I kind of went back a few times but didn't get any specifics. So if there are 30 regions in Spain, I think that's a good amount. They essentially said they didn't want you to just be able to travel from major city to major city like you would in Empire, where you take Paris and you basically own France. You know, if you took Paris, it was just a little too easy to just conquer somewhere. So I think they're trying to make it a bit more complex. They also discussed how resources are going to be tied into provinces, a bit like you'd see in EU5, where a province would be a wood province, or even I think they were discussing in Shogun 2, which is a game I haven't played a lot of, but I probably should, as it's like the most highly rated Total War. They discussed how, if you own war horses, you can make cavalry and stuff. And I was like, yeah, I think that concept's really interesting. I just hope that they don't focus on like each region has one resource. Like a region for me should have multiple resources, because it's not like anywhere in the world just has one resource. Like they're going to have wood, they're going to have stone, maybe they're going to have horses, but they also might have cows. Like it's going to have multiple resources. So I hope they don't focus on one resource. Again, you can leave your thoughts in the forum about how you'd like this developed. And I think that's, again, a great option. So go do that if you have any thoughts. Like, I'm really pushing everybody who has an opinion to go do this, because this is the first time we're seeing CA really reach out to the community in a big way and kind of go the Paradox route. And I think let's make sure we push it. We give them the feedback so they know that this is worth their time. Next, we had regions and settlements, which seems similar to Empire Total War. And for anyone who hasn't played Empire Total War, that essentially means if I was to build, and I'm trying to think back now, but if I was to build like a factory, it would be built outside my settlement, and people would be able to go along and destroy that factory, or destroy that lumber mill, or destroy whatever, the port. So you could actually harm the settlement and harm someone's economy and like cripple them from the inside by just going around and raiding all their stuff. And they seem to have gone for a similar concept here. Now, they haven't said what you can destroy. You can destroy the castles, you can destroy the ports, but they haven't said, like, hey, I can go destroy the lumber camp. The lumber camp shows up on the map. They haven't shown that you can go destroy it. So we don't know how in-depth that's going to be. I would love the Empire system where it's like, hey, I'm a small nation, but you know what? I'm going to go harass this big nation by running around and just burning everything, so that they just maybe want to make peace or get out of this war because it's not even profitable for them at all. So there's still a lot more there. They also said like fishing villages and towns, and I'm looking over to the side here because I have all my notes. They also said that fishing villages, towns are going to grow as your population grows. I don't know if you can place them. Like you can place the castles and place the ports, which is amazing. I mean, something I don't remember seeing in any other Total War, where I can literally go, hey, I want a castle here to protect my supply lines. Hey, I want to put the port in this part of the region because that's going to connect up the trade the best. I think that is amazing. And they kind of said, again, we can leave our feedback about how much freedom they want to give us on where we can place things. But again, love what they're doing there. All very conceptual, but the core idea of it seems really interesting. Next, we have construction within the settlements. They would seem to want to have unlimited building slots, where essentially you can build, you can go and build and play tall. You can play the Netherlands and build up the Netherlands without expanding too much, because you have the unlimited building slots. Now, they didn't say how you were going to be able to build everything. They said it could get more expensive. It will probably be based on like infrastructure and population, maybe research. So they haven't figured out the core mechanics of it, but you will seemingly be able to build everything you can possibly build in your cities. And I think they kind of said like, a capital will be focused on building everything, whereas the smaller places won't. There shouldn't be a focus on building everything. It would be very expensive and costly and time consuming to attempt to build everything in the smaller settlements. So again, really interesting concept. Really excited to see how that works. Followed up with they spoke about what they call perks. Now I think they said themselves they're going to come up with a better idea for that. What are essentially building slots where I can slot something in to improve a building. So if I had a marketplace before in some of the Total War games, you could upgrade your marketplace to like a slave marketplace or a food marketplace or just a marketplace that's level 2. Now what you're going to be able to do is grab your marketplace and add like a bonus to it. Like this marketplace is going to be more food based. This one's going to be more wine based, but you can have multiple bonuses. So it's not like you're setting your marketplace as this specific thing that's really linear. And I think that's really interesting. They actually gave the example of like a lumber camp. You could add a hunting lodge onto it. So not only does it produce wood, but now it also produces a little bit of food. So maybe in regions where it's really forestry based and maybe there's a lack of food, you can put down loads of hunting lodges so that you can essentially try and grow your population through that food source. I think, again, really interesting, all conceptual. And throughout this video, the images on the screen are going to be quite poor, but this is all we got and it is all conceptual art. So have to work with what we have for now. Next, we have population, which everyone in the chat was going crazy about. They straight away stated it's more than just a number. Like EU5, if you raise recruit troops, that lowers how many people are actually on the farms. And if they die, it will decrease your population. So very serious and something you really need to keep an eye on as you're playing, that you don't lose your armies. Because if you lose your whole army, you're going to lose your farming base. But even worse for you, because if you want to build in like the top tier units, the noble units, you need nobles. If they die, like if your noble unit dies, you're actually losing your nobles, who are probably going to be your big tax base in the game, I would imagine. They didn't really get into, and it wasn't part of this discussion, but they didn't get into deeply how the estates interact with each other, how they interact with the towns and cities. They gave some vague ideas, but very similar to EU5 with a lot of their concepts, of course, because that is accurately representing sort of a medieval era. So it's going to be similar here. I have no real general thoughts on this. Exciting to see it. I hope. Sometimes population can be tedious in games, if I'm being honest. But I'm hoping that in this it isn't. Like, I don't want Total War to go too complex either, and that might annoy Total War fans. But I think part of the great part about Total War is it's a strategy game you can pick up and play, even if you've never played strategy games. If they make it so complex, like a Paradox game, where I need to learn the game for 50 hours before I can even start to enjoy it, then I think that's a problem. I love Paradox games, but I'm also, over 20 years old, so I'm an adult. It's easier for me to conceptualize. Whereas when I was a kid, Total War was something I could play as, a 12-year-old, 13-year-old. So I think that is something I don't want them to lose too much. I obviously want it to be more complex, but also not too complex. Just so I get that in there. The next part we have is taxation and wealth. They use Shogun 2 a lot as an example. Again, mentioned earlier, a very big fan favorite. They want to have region wealth where you can be taken out by other countries. So like if a region builds up its wealth, someone else can come in, raid them, or maybe siege that city down and steal all the wealth. And you need to have wealth there for like wars and things like that, so you can kind of pull out the wealth for a rainy day whenever you need the money. And they said it's really important that you have consistent levels of wealth, within cities, because it looks like it's going to be region based, not just like the way in Total War normally you'd have something up the top of your screen where it'd just be like, I have 10,000 gold. It looks like the gold's going to be stored in your cities throughout the realm. He also said taxation is not just a slider. Like, I'm not just going to go, I want to tax my nobles 90%. It's going to be earned through like rent and tributes, depending on your playstyle and your country and the things you research. Again, very vague ideas, but the basis for something really interesting. Go leave your opinions on the forums, which I've said multiple times, because it's really important to reiterate that you can go leave an opinion on this. And I think that's really important. If your army is defeated as well, there'll be a supply train to your army, giving it money, giving it food. That can be attacked, or if your army is defeated, stolen by the enemy. They can essentially take some of your regional wealth through that. So again, cool idea. They kept harping on about how they wanted to make taxation sexy, which might be one of the most difficult things ever to do as someone who studies tax. It is one of the most boring subjects ever. But hey, they tried their best. I don't know if they made it sexy, but they made it interesting at the very least. I think that sums up everything I wanted to say. I'm glad I could get it down to 10 minutes because the actual stream was an hour and a half. Hopefully this was informative. Hopefully this helped. I don't think I'm going to cover every single stream they do, because I don't know how many they're going to do. If they're doing once every 3 months, once every 2 months, maybe I'll cover that. If you're doing it once a week, once every 2 weeks, I don't know, for the next 4 years, like, or 3 years of this development, I don't think I'll do as much in that. I'm not a Total War channel, so I don't want my whole content to be Total War. But yeah, looks super interesting. Go check out the Warhammer 40k videos on the channel. Thanks for watching, guys, and I hope you enjoyed my thoughts and opinions. And good luck.